right, so get this. We're going deep on Elon Musk today, specifically his political stuff, all that support for Trump back in 24. Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, so we've got quite the mix of sources for this deep dive. A clip from the Reveal podcast with Anna Merlin. She's like the conspiracy theory whisperer, right? And then we've got articles from the heavy hitters, New York Times, Washington Post, even Mother Jones. Someone sent that in. So yeah, let's try to figure out how Musk went from tech guy to, well, this.
It's kind of wild, right? His political path hasn't been a straight line. Early on, he seems like a centrist, donating to both parties. But then things took a turn, and the pandemic, that seems to be a big part of the story.
So like a lot of people, the pandemic kind of flipped things for him.
Yeah, seems that way. According to that Reveal podcast, the pandemic sparked this deep distrust of the government in Musk. He started using talking points you'd hear from conservatives, especially about the vaccine mandates and the COVID restrictions, all those.
Yeah, like he saw the government doing too much.
Yeah, exactly. And then articles you sent mention other things, too, that pushed him further, right?
Not just COVID.
Right, like immigration become a big thing for him. Started using the term illegal immigration a lot, which, that's language used a lot by the right. And then there's his stance on trans issues, again, aligning with more conservative views.
Okay, so we've got this rightward shift happening, and then comes the big one, the Twitter takeover. I mean, the X takeover.
Oh, yeah. October 2022, Musk buys Twitter, changes the name to X. Everyone's watching, wondering what he'll do. His goal, he said, was to protect free speech, which he felt was being censored, but then things went well off the rails.
Complicated might be a better word. He bans people who criticize him, brings back people like Alex Jones, who a lot of folks consider a really dangerous conspiracy theorist. So free speech for some, but not for others.
Exactly. It became clear how personal it all was, not just about ideas, but who he liked, who he didn't, and if they agreed with him. This wasn't just some tech guy buying a social media company. This was about power influence controlling the narrative.
And that control got even stronger with his support for Trump's 2024 campaign. I mean, this wasn't just endorsements. This was something else.
Right. He founded that political action committee, America PAC, put something like $120 million of his own money into it. He's showing up at Trump rallies using terms like dark Gothic magia, which is a term used to describe these hardcore Trump supporters,
So he went all in on Trump, and he's using X to spread those voter fraud claims, even though there's no evidence to back it up. He's choosing to spread misinformation, which is scary considering so many people think he's some kind of genius.
It's definitely a choice, and it raises a lot of questions about his goals and what the consequences might be. But hold on, we're going to talk about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, because that's where things get even weirder.
DOGE, it sounds like a meme, but seriously, what was the point of that?
Well, on the surface, it seemed kind of simple. Find and get rid of inefficiencies in the government sounds good, right? But then you've got Musk, the tech guy, leading this thing with Vivek Ramaswamy, who at the time was more of a policy and business guy, two very different people with very different ways of doing things.
It's like a clash of the titans. That Washington Post article you sent mentioned that Ramaswamy ended up leaving DOGE to run for governor of Ohio. But even before that, people were worried about Musk's focus on technology and wanting to see all this sensitive government data.
Yeah, those concerns are valid. When you have someone like Musk with his resources and his, unpredictability asking for access to tons of government data, it makes you wonder about overreach and that information being misused.
Yeah, it's easy to see how that could go wrong fast.
But speaking of things going wrong, we can't avoid the elephant in the room. I mean, the salute in the room, that thing Musk did at a post-inauguration rally for Trump.
That one where he's patting his chest and sticking his arm out with his hand open. Yeah, it's all over photos and videos, caused a lot of controversy. Some people said it was just an awkward movement. Something Musk does sometimes. He can be kind of clumsy.
But it really did look a lot like a Nazi salute. And considering he's known for amplifying hate speech and associating with those far-right figures, a lot of people were really disturbed. It's not a good look, for sure. And it started this whole debate about whether he meant to do it or not. Even the ADL, that organization that fights anti-Semitism, they defended Musk at first, only to get criticized later.
Like everyone was trying to make sense of this tech genius doing something so offensive.
And then you've got people like AOC and Jerry Nadler, who condemned it right away. They saw it as dangerous, especially at a presidential event. And how did Musk respond? Well, he just made things worse.
Blaming it on those liberal dirty tricks and media lies, right?
Yeah.
He just wouldn't acknowledge how serious it was or do any self-reflection.
Exactly. So we have this incredibly rich and powerful guy, someone a lot of people admire, making a gesture that no matter what he meant, evokes a really dark and disturbing part of history. And instead of listening to the concerns, he just dismisses them as some kind of conspiracy against him.
It's fascinating, but also really troubling.
Yeah.
And I think it points to a bigger question. Why is Elon Musk aligning himself with these ideologies and these people? What's going on?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one we'll try to answer as we keep going with this deep dive.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer, but maybe it has to do with this idea of disruption. Musk is all about shaking things up, challenging the way things are done, and aligning himself with guys like Trump. Well, that lets him do that in the world of politics.
So he's taking that Silicon Valley disruptor thing and applying it to politics.
Right. But the thing is, politics isn't like a tech startup. The stakes are way higher, and the potential for harm is way bigger.
Especially with the kinds of people he's been hanging out with. You sent me those articles about him supporting those far-right figures here and in other countries. It's pretty scary.
It's like he's openly praised Tommy Robinson, that British guy, the one who's known for being anti-Islam. And then there's him criticizing the sentence of Andrew McIntyre, that British neo-Nazi who was convicted of trying to get people to commit violence after that awful knife attack.
Wait, he actually defended a neo-Nazi? McIntyre was using social media to try and get people to attack a mosque? Even saying things like war. He got 7 years in prison, and Musk said that was too much for just social media posts.
That's terrifying. This guy has a huge platform, millions of people listening to him, and he's using it to defend someone who's convicted of inciting hatred and violence.
And that's what makes this whole thing so dangerous. It's not just about Musk's own beliefs. It's about him using his power to make those extreme views seem normal and giving them a platform.
It's like he's throwing a lit match on a pile of dry leaves.
Yeah.
And with him controlling X, he's basically controlling the wind, fanning those flames of extremism.
And it's spreading beyond the U.S. He's gotten involved in British politics, saying he supports Reform UK, that party that's super strict on immigration. He even met with Nigel Farage, the leader of that party, and people are saying he might be giving them money.
So he's not just messing with American politics, he's going global. What about him being interested in the AfD, that far-right party in Germany that seems especially worrying considering Germany's history?
Yeah, it is. The AfD has been accused of having neo-Nazi ties, and Musk has not only said good things about the party, he's also given their leaders a platform on X, letting them talk to his massive audience. A lot of people are really angry about it, especially German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who basically said freedom of speech doesn't mean you can support extremist ideas.
So even in a country where they really value free speech, there are limits. And it seems like Musk is always pushing those limits, seeing how far he can go.
Yeah, he is. And it makes you think about the responsibility that comes with having that much influence. When you have something like X that can change how people think and give certain voices a boost, you have to use that power carefully and ethically.
It's like having this megaphone that can reach millions of people. You can use it to spread good messages of hope and unity, or you can use it to create problems and division. And it seems like Musk is choosing the second option.
And that choice has consequences. It makes extreme views seem normal, it makes hate speech seem okay, and it creates a situation where violence and intolerance can grow.
Going back to that salute, it's like that one gesture sums up this whole dangerous trend. Even if he didn't mean to do it, like some people say, the fact that it even seems possible that it fits with what we know about him, it's really disturbing.
It is. And his reaction to it, calling it liberal propaganda and dirty tricks, just makes it worse. It feeds into this us versus them thinking where anyone disagreeing with him is attacking him.
And that kind of thinking is poisonous. It makes people distrust each other. It stops conversations and makes it impossible to really talk about complicated issues.
Exactly. And it makes it easier for conspiracy theories and lies to spread. We've already seen it happening on X with those fake claims about voter fraud and rigged elections.
It's like he's building his own reality. One where facts and evidence don't matter and anyone who disagrees with them is part of some big conspiracy.
And that's a really dangerous game because when you blur the lines between what's real and what's not, you mess up the foundations of a democracy.
It's like watching a car crash in slow motion and we can't look away.
Yeah.
We know it's going to be bad, but we're just stuck watching.
And that's part of the problem. We've gotten so used to all this anger and controversy that it doesn't even shock us anymore. We're becoming numb to how dangerous this kind of talk and behavior is.
It's like the frog in the boiling water. The temperature keeps going up slowly, and we don't even realize we're in danger until it's too late.
And what's at stake is huge. We're talking about the future of democracy, how technology affects our lives, the whole idea of how we live together.
It's a lot to think about, and it feels like we're just seeing the beginning. You said earlier that he's been getting involved in international politics, too. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's like he's this global political powerhouse, but without any real accountability or transparency. It's hard to keep up with all the ways he's trying to use his influence.
And that's part of how he does it. Being chaotic and unpredictable keeps everyone guessing, makes it hard to hold him responsible for any one thing.
It's like he's playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. It's definitely a clever way to use power, and it works because it uses the same systems that are supposed to keep powerful people in check against themselves.
So what can we do about it? Is there any way to stop this kind of influence?
It's a tough one. Traditional ways of keeping things in check, like journalism and government regulations, they're struggling to keep up with how fast and complicated Musk's actions are.
Feels like we need a whole new plan.
Maybe, but for now, I think the most important thing is awareness. People need to understand the tactics, the motivations, and the possible consequences.
So education is key. We need to give people the tools to spot misinformation and propaganda, to see through the BS.
Exactly. And we need to talk openly and honestly about how technology affects our lives, about power, and about the kind of future we want.
It's not going to be easy, but the other option is to let people like Musk keep shaping the world the way they want, without any real input or oversight from the rest of us.
And that's not a good future. We need to take back our power, get involved in the political process, and demand better from our leaders, from our institutions, and from ourselves.
Well, this has been a wild ride. We've gone from pandemic skepticism to Twitter takeovers, from dark Gothic Maggie to neo-Nazi salutes, from American politics to global power games. It's a lot to process.
It is, but the main takeaway here is that we can't just sit back and watch what happens. The stakes are too high. We need to get involved, to question, to challenge, and to demand better.
Because the future isn't set in stone, we create it together through our choices and actions, and the choices we make now will decide what kind of world we have tomorrow.
So as you go about your day, think about this. What role do you want to play in shaping that future? What can you do, big or small, to make sure the world we create is fair, just, and sustainable? The answers are inside each of us.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for walking us through this deep dive. It's been really eye-opening.
It was my pleasure. Remember, knowledge is power. Use it wisely.